This summary is about the book, Read People Like a Book. In this book, you will learn about motivation as a behavioral predictor, the body, the face, and clusters, personality science and typology, lie detection, and using the power of observation. Friends, have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt they were hiding something? There's a smile, but maybe there's pain too. The words are saying one thing, and the body language is saying another. Sometimes even the people we have known for years surprise us. We think to ourselves, I never truly understood them, because the real person isn't on the outside, they're on the inside, and reading them is an art, a science, a kind of magic. Now, imagine if you had the power to understand the story behind every smile on someone's face, to recognize their intentions from the way they speak, and to read their fear and lies from a quick glance in their eyes. How would it feel if people tried to hide things from you, and you understood everything without them saying a word? This is the power that Read People Like a Book gives you. This isn't just a book, it's a mirror that shows us how little we know about other people. When a person talks, their words are just the surface, but the real meaning is hidden in their tone, in their eyes, and in their body. Every person's behavior is driven by some kind of motive, and this book teaches you to read those unseen motives, the fears, the ego, the masks that we wear every day. You might be thinking, is all this really possible? Can we decode people like a detective does? The answer is yes. But for that, you need a sharp eye, and this book sharpens it. When you read People Like a Book, it feels as if someone has removed the blindfold from your eyes. You don't just learn to see, you learn to feel. There is a message hidden in every movement, every pause, and every hesitation of the person in front of you, and now you can catch it. This book not only teaches you to understand others, but also becomes the beginning of decoding yourself. So, if you are ready to know people not by their words, but by the truth inside them, this journey is for you. Chapter 1. Motivation as a behavioral predictor. Have you ever asked yourself why people do what they do? Why does someone get so angry about something? Why is one person so calm and another so restless? Why does one rush to help someone while another thinks only of their own benefit? What is that thing that drives all of them? An invisible force that fills someone's eyes with fear, brings a smile to someone's face, and gives someone the courage to fight the whole world. That is a person's motivation, that hidden fire behind our every action. But this motivation is not visible from the outside. It's not in our hands, nor is it written on our faces. It is connected to some incomplete story inside us, some old deficiency, some childhood memory, some insecurity. Many times the wounds that we have forgotten become our motivation, and then we do something that seems irrational or extreme to others, but for us, it's a silent fight against our own fears and our own questions. Now think, when someone shouts at someone, puts them down, or tries to prove themselves right in every situation, are they really strong, or are they broken from the inside? Perhaps they want to prove their worth to themselves, to the world, or to someone who once told them they couldn't do anything. Motivation is always connected to the ego. The fight to save one's ego is the most dangerous, because in it, a person forgets their real self and becomes something they never intended to be. That's why when we want to understand someone, we should first catch their motivation before their behavior. But it's not that easy, because motivation is not always straightforward. If someone helps, it doesn't necessarily mean they are good. Maybe they are living in guilt. If someone is sitting quietly, it doesn't mean they are weak. Maybe they are suppressing a storm inside them. Every person wants to achieve something and is afraid of losing something. That is their real motivation. Sometimes respect, sometimes validation, sometimes control, and sometimes just love. We are all chasing an invisible reward, and the search for it is reflected in our every gesture and every decision. But this motivation is not always logical. It is subconscious. That is, we ourselves do not know why we desire something. And this is the biggest illusion. A person doesn't know themselves and judges others. And this is where we make the biggest mistake. We decide a person's nature by looking at their actions without understanding their inner drive. But if you have learned to read someone's motivation, you can read not only their mind, but also their heart. Now imagine if you could decode a person's motivation, you could also know whether or not you can trust them. You can catch their intentions before their words. This is no less than a superpower. And when you can do this, you don't just read people, you understand them. And that is the art that can change every relationship of yours, be it business, friendship, or a deep personal connection. Because when you understand someone at the level of their motivation, you don't judge them, you empathize with them. And empathy is that power that connects people to people. So the next time someone is in front of you, smiling, talking, or sitting quietly, just ask yourself one question: what is their motivation? And believe me, when you start looking for the answer to this question, you will not see people's faces, but their stories. Chapter 2. The Body, the Face, and Clusters. Sometimes a glimpse of someone's face says more than words. Someone says something, but their eyes express something else. Someone laughs, but behind that smile there's a depth, like some hidden pain, some suppressed story. People's bodies, their faces, their gestures, they all speak a language that can be heard without being spoken. All you need is to see, to understand, and to feel.
When a person lies, their face twitches, their eyes blink for a fraction of a second, and their lips become firm. When someone is scared, their fingers tremble slightly. They constantly change their body posture. All these are signals, silent clues, as if the heart is screaming through the body, "I'm telling the truth. Look carefully." Body language is the art where we can read the whole story happening inside someone from every small thing. When someone tries to hide their hands again and again, they are probably concealing something. When someone avoids eye contact, they are uncomfortable somewhere. And when someone nods at your words, but their body is in a different direction, they are not mentally where you think they are. Face expressions are the most open door to human emotion. No matter how much a person tries to hide something, their face and their eyes reveal everything. No matter how well you are trained in acting, you cannot control a micro-expression that appears for less than a second. That momentary flicker is the truth. But now the question is, can we know everything about a person from just one signal? If someone blinks or smiles, should we understand what kind of person they are? Absolutely not. And this is the biggest trap. One clue never gives meaning alone. The real meaning comes out when we see all the signals together as a cluster. Just as a picture is not made with just one color, a person's behavior cannot be understood with just one gesture. If a person is laughing at your words, but at the same time their body is backing away, their shoulders are tight, and their eyes are darting around, these signals together tell you that something is wrong. The body, face, and movement together create a canvas, and on that canvas, the painting that we call the human mind is made. Now imagine if you had the ability to decode people's gestures, their expressions, and their movements. You would not only be able to understand people, but also predict their next move. For example, in the middle of a conversation, you can catch whether the person in front of you is truthful or diplomatic, or whether they like you or are just pretending. This ability can not only change your personal relationships, but also give a new direction to your professional life. The most important thing on this journey is patience. You should know how to observe, and that too without judgment. Many times what you see is not what it is, and what you don't see is the real thing. Every person's body language is different. Their expressions dictionary is unique. Someone becomes very quiet in happiness. Someone smiles even in sadness. That's why you have to understand the clues, but you don't have to jump to conclusions. This is a silent conversation that is always going on. We just need to know how to listen. When we learn to listen to this, we can understand a person as a whole. Words can sometimes deceive, but the body never lies. So the next time you meet someone, just look carefully into their eyes, at their gestures, at the movement of their hands. Everything they are not saying but are feeling is there. Chapter 3. Personality Science and Typology. Have you ever felt upon meeting someone for the first time that they are completely different from you? Their thinking, their reactions, their priorities, everything is the opposite of yours. When you speak, they are quiet. When you work fast, they work slowly. You make decisions with emotion, and they make them with only logic. And then we often say, our personalities don't match. But have you ever wondered what this word personality is? Is it a label, a permanent tag stuck on someone's forehead? Or can it also change and evolve, just like the person themselves? Personality is like an iceberg whose small part is visible on the outside, but the real mass is hidden inside. What is visible are just habits, expressions, and surface behavior, but what is not visible is the mindset, fears, desires, and a whole internal mechanism that drives that person's identity. Now imagine that you put on a lens to understand people that allows you to see not only their outer face, but also their inner system. You can know whether a person is a risk taker or a safe player, whether they are deeply emotional or socially detached, whether they are a leader or an observer, and you can understand all this without much interaction. Sounds powerful, right? Personality science explores this very superpower. Every person is tied to a unique psychological pattern, and that pattern predicts how they will react in any given situation. Some people are those who like a crowd. They get energy from talking to people. We call them extroverts. But there are some who recharge by sitting alone, who like to think deeply, in whose silence a world resides. They are introverts. But just being an extrovert or an introvert is not personality. That is just one layer. The real structure is much more complex than that. Behind personality is motivation. Some people live for recognition, some for stability, some for a challenge, and some for inner peace. Someone wants to be dominant. Someone wants to be understanding. Someone feels comfortable breaking rules while another considers every rule sacred. And when we learn to recognize these patterns, only then can we truly understand people. Imagine if you understood that the person in front of you makes decisions with emotions or with logic, that they live in ideas or in practical actions. Then you would not only be able to connect with them better, but also avoid conflict with them. Because many times misunderstandings happen just because we don't even try to see things from the other person's lens. Understanding personality is like reading a person's manual, a manual that tells what things hurt them, what excites them, and what things make them feel safe. This understanding gives you the power to heal and strengthen every relationship. And yes, personality is not static. It is like a river whose flow changes with age, experience, and pain. Sometimes a trauma turns a cheerful person into an introvert, and sometimes a small success makes a quiet person confident. Therefore, don't label personality. See it as a journey. Now the question arises, how to decode this journey? How to understand which pattern applies to which person? Here, personality typology tools help, such as MBTI, Big Five, and Enneagram. These are not frameworks to put someone in a box, but are bridges to reach the world of others. But more important than the tools is your intent. Do you want to understand someone so that you can control them, or so that you can accept them as they are? This is the difference that determines whether your knowledge will turn into empathy or manipulation. When you start to see personality in its full complexity, you start to see the deeper truth behind people's superficial actions. Then you don't judge, you connect. And this is the connection that connects people to people and gives depth to relationships.
Chapter 4. Lie detection. Has anyone ever looked you in the eyes and said something, and still your heart said, something is wrong? The words were sweet, the face was confident, but for some reason, something inside started to break, as if the person in front of you wasn't telling the truth, as if there was a shadow that was not visible but could definitely be felt. It is in such a moment that an art begins that every person wants to learn, to catch a lie. A lie is not just a word, it's a performance. It's an illusion hidden in someone's eyes, gestures, voice, and body. When someone lies, they are fighting a battle inside them to suppress their truth, to hide their fear. And during that battle, their body slowly starts to betray them. The problem is that we often judge that performance at the level of words, but the real clues are where we hardly look. Lie detection is not a magic trick. It's a silent observation. That eye that sees beneath the surface, that ear that listens to the pauses and the pitch, and that instinct that says, despite everything seeming fine, something is missing. When a person lies, their mind is doing two things at once, creating a story and showing themselves as normal. And this dual pressure reveals them, like an actor who remembers the script but misses the emotions. Many times we think that catching a lie means looking into the other person's eyes, reading their smile, and paying attention to their gestures. And yes, all this is necessary, but the biggest signal is inconsistency. Cracks in the story, a sudden hesitation in the voice, a glimpse of an emotion on the face that doesn't match the actual words. These are microsignals, and catching these microsignals is the work of a trained mind. But the most important thing on this journey is not to make the mistake of mistaking doubt for certainty. Sometimes someone is anxious, nervous, but not a liar. Sometimes someone is avoiding eye contact because they're uncomfortable, not because they're hiding something. That's why don't make lie detection a weapon of ego. Understand it as a responsibility. To catch a lie, we have to know the other person's baseline behavior, which means what their normal reaction is. Do they normally speak quickly? Are they naturally a little avoidant? When we know this, only then can we catch the deviation, because when a person lies, they step outside their comfort zone, and that's where their body, their tone, and their logic start to deceive them. Another powerful method is the element of surprise. When you suddenly ask a question that they are not expecting, their mind goes blank for a moment. In that moment, their instinct reveals them. That moment, that pause, that hesitation, that is the real door to the truth. But catching a lie is not just about reading others. It also demands clarity from within you, because many times we don't want to catch the lie that can hurt us the most. Many times we ignore the truth that is clearly reflected in the other person's eyes just because we are emotionally invested. Sometimes lie detection first teaches us to fight with ourselves, with our denial, with our expectations, and with the illusion in which we are living. Now imagine if you had the ability to notice the slightest pause, the shifting body, the suddenly changing breathing of the person in front of you. You would not only be able to catch lies, but also make yourself more honest in the search for truth. But always remember one thing. Lie detection is a gift, but if it is used incorrectly, it can also become a curse. Understand it as power, but don't let it become arrogance. Because sometimes someone's lie is also a survival mechanism, and understanding it is much more important than judging it. So the next time someone looks into your eyes with a smile and says, "I didn't do anything," don't be swayed by the words. Look into the depth of their eyes. The truth that will never come to their tongue might be there. Chapter 5. Using the Power of Observation. Have you ever stood in a crowd and just watched everyone quietly, without saying anything, without meeting anyone? Just observed? Someone's face says something, and a fear is hidden in someone's walk. Confidence is reflected in someone's gestures, while someone is just imitating others so not to get lost in the crowd. And in that silence, in that moment of observation, it feels as if the whole world is opening up without opening any door. Observation, this word, as simple as it seems, is just as powerful. It is the power that teaches us to understand people not by their words, but by their patterns. We meet hundreds of people every day, but how many do we really see?
No, seeing doesn't just mean looking with the eyes. It means to feel, to analyze, to absorb. Many times what people say is not important, but how they say it, where they pause, how many times they breathe, that is more revealing. When you start to develop observation as a skill, you suddenly feel that you can see a hidden reality. You start to see that a person is constantly twisting their fingers while talking, that someone is lost in thought with their hand on their chin, that someone is sitting with their legs in a particular direction. And then you start to understand that all these gestures are not random. They are clues. Clues to someone's mood, their mindset, their intentions. But observation becomes even deeper when we learn to read not just people, but also situations, silence, and patterns. When you enter a room, you can feel the energy of that room. Who is in tension? Who is dominant? Who is escaping by being invisible? You start to understand everything. This is the moment when you learn to be present, and being present means being completely aware, sharpening your senses, trusting your instinct.
The most interesting thing about observation is that it makes you a silent detective. Just as clues are put together to solve a crime, you can create a complete emotional map from people's gestures, facial expressions, voice tone, and even their word choice. For example, if someone always starts with I, like I did this, I did that, they might be an attention seeker. If someone is always neutral in conversation, they might be emotionally guarded. But the biggest challenge in this is patience, because observation is not a quick trick. It's a slow art, an art that first teaches you to be quiet. Because when you are quiet, the world speaks. And when you start to listen, only then do you learn to see. Observation is like a lens. If it's clean, you will see the clear truth. But if it's covered with the dust of judgment and the shadow of bias, your eyes will not be able to see anything, even though they are open. Therefore, the most important thing in observation is neutrality. No quick conclusions, no overthinking, just attention and understanding. Many times, regret is hidden in someone's light smile. Pain is hidden in their laughter. Guilt is hidden in their long silence. And if you are a trained observer, you can read everything that the world doesn't see. You can catch emotions, understand their depth, and decode the emotion behind someone's behavior. Now, imagine if you applied this skill in your personal life. You would know if your friend is really fine or just pretending. You would understand why your partner is silent when they say, "I am fine." You would be able to catch whether your colleague supports you or is secretly opposing you. Observation not only makes you smart, it makes you sensitive, and this sensitivity brings depth to relationships. Because when you try to understand someone without the desire to change them, you can truly see them with their layers and their complexity. So the next time you are in front of someone, just stop for a moment and observe. What are their eyes saying? What signal is their posture giving? Are they really comfortable? Or are they just acting? This is the journey that starts with observation and goes to understanding. Conclusion. So friends, this was a glimpse of that wonderful power that we call observation. Many times, to change the world, we don't have to look outside. We have to look inside. And when we start looking at others deeply, we also start to understand ourselves. Every smile, every silence, every gaze tells a story. We just need to know how to listen to it.